It's October 17, 1972. In the small city of St. Joseph, Missouri, a baby cries in a rundown hospital. His name, Marshall Bruce Mathers III. No one in that room could have guessed that this frail, pale-skinned boy would one day shake the very foundations of hip-hop, a genre born from black culture, rebellion, and rhythm. But this is the story of a man who turned pain into poetry. This is the story of Eminem. Marshall's childhood wasn't a fairy tale. He grew up constantly moving between Missouri and Detroit with his mother, Debbie. His father had walked out when Marshall was just a baby, leaving behind only silence and resentment. Detroit in the late 70s and 80s wasn't kind to outsiders, and Marshall was as outsider as they came. He was one of the few white kids in a mostly black neighborhood, poor, skinny, and often bullied. School was a battlefield he rarely won. He failed the ninth grade 3 times before dropping out for good. But in the chaos, he found something that gave him control: words. He started scribbling rhymes in notebooks. He became obsessed with the rhythm of language, with the way words could cut, heal, and shock. At 14, he adopted the stage name M&M, taken from his initials, Marshall Mathers, later stylized as Eminem. He began sneaking into Detroit's underground rap battles, the same places that would later inspire scenes in his film 8 Mile. Imagine a young white kid stepping onto those stages, surrounded by rappers who didn't think he belonged. But when he opened his mouth, the room listened. His lyrics were lightning, clever, angry, and real. Still, life outside the mic was brutal. He worked at fast food joints and barely scraped together rent for a crumbling apartment. In 1995, his longtime girlfriend, Kim Scott, gave birth to their daughter Haley Jade, the light of his life. But his music career still hadn't taken off. Then, in 1996, he released his first independent album, Infinite. It was heartfelt, but failed commercially. Critics said his style sounded too much like Nas or Jay-Z. The rejection hit hard. Broke and hopeless, Eminem slipped into depression. But rock bottom can be a powerful motivator. A year later, he created an alter ego, Slim Shady. Slim was everything Marshall couldn't be: outrageous, violent, sarcastic, and fearless. He gave voice to all the anger Marshall had bottled up. In 1997, Eminem released the Slim Shady EP. It was raw, disturbing, and hilarious, and it caught the attention of one man who would change his life forever: Dr. Dre. Dre was already a legend from NWA and his own solo career. Heard Eminem's demo tape thanks to an intern who refused to let it collect dust. Dre was blown away. As he later said, "I didn't care what color he was. I just knew he was special." Dre called him in for a meeting. Within minutes of hearing him freestyle, Dre said, "You're signed." What followed was hip-hop history. In 1999, the Slim Shady LP dropped and exploded. Songs like My Name Is and Guilty Conscience shocked audiences and amused them at the same time. Eminem became both a hero and a villain. Critics accused him of being vulgar, offensive, and dangerous. Parents protested. Politicians called him a menace. But for millions of fans, he was a voice they understood. Someone who spoke about pain, poverty, anger, and feeling like an outcast. The album won a Grammy Award and went multi-platinum. And just like that, the world knew his name. Then came the Marshall Mathers LP in 2000. It wasn't just an album, it was a cultural earthquake. Tracks like Stan, The Way I Am, and The Real Slim Shady blurred the line between fiction and autobiography. Eminem rapped about fame, hate, his mother, his struggles with Kim, and the monsters inside his head. It became one of the fastest-selling albums in U.S. history. But fame didn't heal him. it broke him further. The pressure, the lawsuits, the media frenzy, and his volatile relationship with Kim led him into drug addiction and paranoia. Still, even in chaos, he produced brilliance. In 2002, he starred in 8 Mile, a semi-autobiographical film about a young rapper trying to escape poverty. The song Lose Yourself, written for the movie, won him an Academy Award, the first ever for a rap song. Eminem had reached the top of the world, and yet inside, he was falling apart. By the mid-2000s, addiction nearly killed him. He overdosed in 2007, collapsing on his bathroom floor after taking a dangerous mix of prescription drugs. Doctors told him he was just hours from dying. That was his wake-up call. He entered rehab and spent years rebuilding himself, as a father, as a man, and as an artist. And when he returned in 2009 with Relapse and later Recovery, fans heard a different Eminem. Still sharp, still angry, but now older, wiser, more self-aware. He rapped about addiction, self-destruction, and redemption. Recovery sold millions and won 2 more Grammys. The track Not Afraid became an anthem for those fighting their own demons. Since then, Eminem has continued to evolve, sometimes controversial, often misunderstood, but always authentic. Albums like the Marshall Mathers LP 2 in 2013 and Kamikaze in 2018 show a man still wrestling with his legacy, his critics, and the shadow of his younger self. Through it all, one truth remains. Eminem changed hip-hop forever. He broke racial barriers, brought storytelling to a new level, and inspired generations of rappers who saw that emotion and vulnerability could be just as powerful as bravado. And perhaps most importantly, he never stopped being a writer. The kid who once scribbled rhymes in a battered notebook became a poet for the broken, the angry, and the unheard. Today, Eminem rarely gives interviews. He lives quietly in Michigan, close to his daughter Haley, who has grown up and built her own path. He's a man who's seen the best and worst of fame, who turned trauma into art and pain into purpose. His story isn't just about music, it's about survival. As he once said, "You can make something of your life, it just depends on your drive." And that's the legacy of Marshall Bruce Mathers III, the boy from Detroit who became Eminem, and the man who reminded the world that even in darkness, words can save you.